Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is He Shall Have No Name in the Street. And pretty much this lesson comes through the inspiration of some information that I've been looking over last couple of days. There were movies made on it, documentaries, and Spirit just kind of led me to run across this information and to go into it, just to build upon a lesson that was done about the Southern Kingdom suffered the worst. I don't remember the exact title, but it was something along those lines based off of something that Elder Apostle Tahar had did, dealing with Judah, so-called Negroes or so-called blacks that suffered the worst part of the curses. And that is absolutely correct. Now, this lesson is going to be centered around Lord's will. It'd be edifying. It's going to be centered around the Green Book. It's going to be centered around Jim Crow laws and pretty much payback in general in the scriptures, and how Jake, found themselves in the situation that they're in, dealing with Judah and all the rest of the tribes. Also, we all went through our skirmishes and different things that we had to suffer curse wise, but Jake suffered it the worst. So Lord's will, this will be an edifying lesson, because it's a whole lot of information. So I'm just gonna try to condense best I can, and what I can remember in some web pages that I have pulled up, and Lord's will could do, can bring this information out to you to shed light or more light as to the injustices that Esau has put upon when I say Esau, I'm talking about the so-called white man, has put upon so-called blacks, or African American, as they like to call themselves. A lot of these jakes out here like to call themselves African American when they're not African American. They're Israelites from the tribe of Judah, and different tribes. And just to show you, that these curses are real, and just a couple of thoughts and points that came into mind, that I wanted to highlight in this truth, in this lesson, Lord willing. So pretty much what you're looking at here is Jim Crow. People wonder who Jim Crow is. Pretty much Jim Crow is based off of a character, pretty much from a song that this Edomite wrote, which was the first, goes back to the minstrel shows. He was the first Edomite to paint himself in blackface and make money, because he was a failing actor or something along those lines. And pretty much he painted himself black, and then he did a song, and in the song he mentioned Jim Crow. So pretty much Jim Crow is not so much as a person, but it's an idea, and the idea is that this was placed upon Jake in general. So when you see Jim Crow laws, it's like a derogatory way, or like a clandestine way of a derogatory term, referring to Judah, so-called Negroes, or so-called blacks, or so-called African Americans in America. Laws that were brought against them. So that's pretty much Jim Crow laws, or pretty much like saying Sambo laws or Coon laws or nigger law. That's pretty much what Jim Crow laws stand for. So the reason why the Green Book was created back in 1936 by a Jake from New York by the name of Victor Hugo Green is because he actually was so-called inspired by his friend. I believe he was his friend, a so-called Amalekite. And pretty much he had a guide for Amalek, in the Catskills. So allegedly he got this idea from that to do something for the so-called Black Americans, African Americans, Negro, whatever you want to call them, which are Judites, from the tribe, they're Israelites from the tribe Judah. You know, he wanted to make a safe guide book for them to be able to maneuver through the different towns, and cities in New York, where it was safe for them to go to, where they were, where business was conducted to them, certain places of vacation, certain places of certain establishments where they can sit down and eat, or they can get gas at, or they can go to certain grocery stores, or stay at certain hotels, So it was a guide, a safe guide. It's a book, which is a safe guide on how to maneuver when they're traveling, which it eventually ended up extending to the whole of the United States, and then pretty much to the world, in process of time. It was pretty much a guidebook anywhere in the world they can go to, Jake could go to, and be safe, where people would actually, give them service, and that's pretty much what it was about. So when the Jim Crow laws were established, as you can see here, white women, colored women, you had separations as to, it was segregated. You had certain places where Jake was not allowed and Esau was allowed. You had black or so-called colored bathrooms and white bathrooms and so on and so forth. Like as you see here, colored waiting room, and there were certain places where they would not serve Jake, certain hotels where they would not serve Jake, so on and so forth. All right. So this is why, according to the history, the Green Book was created, which shows you that by the time the Green Book was created, you had approximately close to 60 years or so, or about 60 years or so, where so-called slavery was supposed to have ended. And you weren't supposed to have any slaves, and everything was supposed to be set on an even balance, but it wasn't. So in process of time, this book was invented or created to give Jake safe passage, from point A to point B. So this is the documentary highlighting the real Green Book. It says a new Smithsonian Channel film positions the guidebook for black travelers as a necessary response to white supremacist violence and as a community building tool by Hannah Georges. Now, they have an actual documentary which I watched. It's called The Green Book Guide to Freedom. It's 51 minutes long. Pretty good watch. You could watch it, if you have Prime or if you could find it somewhere. And it just gives you the history on it. But the thing with Jake is Jake thinks that because Esau afforded certain things like this for them, that they made certain paths for them, that they were cool. Because another point in the Green Book was that you had Esau gas stations, which was owned by the Rockefellers, which financed some of this information. And pretty much they will hire a lot of Jakes in prominent positions, because remember, they're funding both sides, of the spectrum. Just like they funded the Jim Crow somehow, some way, they also funded Jake, and they also funded the civil rights movement. It's all a rigged game. Remember, the scriptures say the deceived and the deceiver are his. So that's why Jake thinks, that this was a good thing, which really it's not, because we're a nation of kings. We're royalty that are stuck in exile underneath peasants. You see? So here it is. It's like it's royalty trying to ask for crumbs from the table of a peasant. You see how crazy that sounds? But anyway, let's see what we can find here. All right, it says in 1936, a black postal worker. Oh, by the way, he was a postal worker, and the way he got a lot of his information was he would pay. Which how the hell he gets all his money from being a postal worker to pay all these other so-called black postal workers around the country to feed him information on different places where Jake can go. This is how he compiled a lot of his information. It says, named Victor Hugo Green published the first edition of the Negro Motorist Green Book. At the time, the segregation era guide was meant to direct black New York City residents to businesses they could frequent without facing the overt discrimination and threats of violence they encountered even up north. Demand soon grew for a more geographically expansive document, and the following years Green compiled and distributed the first national issue for extra service mentioned the Green Book. The cover's header read, "A direct address to the community it served." And that's pretty much the gist of it. So it was supposed to be like a safe guide. I put some of these pages in the description box, so after the lesson, if you want to go ahead and check these out and read through some of these, it gives you, more of the history on it. Then you have Jim Crow, shows this day in history, colored Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws were a collection of state and local statutes that legalized racial segregation named after a black minstrel show character. See? So it really wasn't an actual person. It was a made-up character that this Edomite had created. And in the song, he wrote a song. And in the song, he mentioned Jim Crow a couple of times. And that's where that stuck. Jim Crow, like code for, so-called Negro or so-called black, or, in a derogatory way. Coon, It says the laws, which existed for about 100 years, from the post-Civil War era until 1968, were meant to marginalize African Americans by denying them the right to vote, hold jobs, get an education, or other opportunities. And by the time the so-called civil rights movement finally got Jake, to integrate with Esau and afford him so-called rights, the author of the Green Book had died, because he died in 1960. So he so-called had that vision or that dream to see, that when the Green Book would no longer have to be printed. Like I said, there's a lot of red flags, in the history with this individual. But nevertheless, it's a part of so-called American history, which is a part of Jake's history, which shows you that these devils do not play fair. Here it is, you so-called freed the slaves, but then you still got them oppressed, because this is a part of the curses. Curse shall thou be when thou comest in, curse shall thou be when thou goest out, curse shall you be in the city, curse shall you be in the field. The Lord shall smite thee with madness, and everything else. Among these nations thou shalt find no ease. So it's all, being called a proverb, a byword. So all of these things are the curses in the pages of the Bible leaping out and jumping upon Jake. The other tribes too, but like I said, Judah suffered the worst. It says those who attempted to defy Jim Crow laws often faced arrest, fines, jail sentences, violence, and death. And that's why during the so-called civil rights movement, a lot of Jakes got their head busted in, beat down, and put in jail, because that was all a setup, to get Jake their rights, to pretty much be able to push that 13th and 14th Amendment upon every citizen. You see, these devils are very clever in the way that they do things. There's always an underlying situation with, there's always ulterior motives with whatever it is that they do. So when they so-called do good, be aware or beware. Never trust thine enemy. Black codes, the roots of Jim Crow laws began as early as 1865, immediately following the ratification of the 13th Amendment. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist in the United States. which abolished slavery in the United States, which it did not abolish slavery. It just transferred slaves from the South into the North. And slavery is in the Bible. And the Lord said that our people would go into slavery. Let's go real quick to Isaiah, because I have a whole bunch of precepts, Lord's will, we're going to get to. What's that, 49? Is that Isaiah 49? Nope. It's got to be Isaiah 42. Right. Isaiah 42:22. But this is the people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. Those holes are a representation of the system. It's a representation of these different religions. It's a representation of all of these different schools of thought, you know, whether it's higher learning, whether it's philosophy, whether it's science, whether it's religion. And they are hid in prison houses. You know, that's the same. This is going into the same thing. They are for a prey. See, what is a prey? A prey is always being hunted by a predator. Who's the predator? Esau is the predator. And he's constantly on a hunt for Jake's souls, you know, to find out how they can perpetually make Jake slaves. You know, and this whole so-called civil rights movement and the emancipation of the slaves and all that, that was all a setup through legislation so that eventually in the future they could use that same legislation to enslave the whole planet. You know, all of America, but eventually the whole planet. It says, and none delivereth. See, because there's none that can deliver. That's why it says in Deuteronomy 28:68 that you're going to be set up and sold as bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you, meaning no man is going to be able to deliver you. There's not going to be one person out there, no matter how charismatic the person may be, no matter how much money they may have among Jake, that's going to be able to deliver you from this situation. Because what you have to remember is when you go back to the law, there is a law on redemption, where if one of your family members fell in decay and went into slavery among the heathens or anything of that nature, that if you had the money, you were able to redeem him, buy him back from that situation, so he can be restored back to being free. You see? But that was going to be lost when the curses would come upon us. There would be no man to be able to save us. There would be no man to be able to put up any money or anything, give any type of good word to be able to get Jake out of the situation that they came into. It says, for a spoil, which is what? Spoils is robbery. And none saith restore. Yeah, because there is no restitution. There are no reparations. The true reparations will come in the kingdom of heaven. Because these devils, everything that they stole, they're going to have to give it back. It says, who among you will give ear to this? Who will hearken and hear for the time to come? Who gave Jacob for a spoil? Who is Jacob? The father of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. So beginning with Judah, who gave Jacob for a spoil? And Israel to the robbers. Yeah. So who gave all of the Israelites over to the hand of the robbers, which are who? These devils. You know, in other time periods, we went into captivity under other nations, but ultimately during the time of the Greeks, during the time of the Romans, and now we're under captivity under the Edomites, which will be the last rulers on the planet Earth before Yahushua came back. So who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord, he against whom we have sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law. And this is why we fell as a nation. Because of the very beginnings of the worshiping of idols, which is the main thing that got us fucked up. Worshiping of idols. That's the main thing that got us hemmed up. All right. And then everything else that came along with it. So going back to the Jim Crow laws, it says black codes were strict local and state laws that detailed when, where, and how formerly enslaved people could work and for how much compensation. The codes appeared throughout the South as a legal way to put black citizens into indentured servitude. It says to take voting rights away, to control where they lived and how they traveled, and to seize children for labor purposes. Yeah. And pretty much that's what they used. You know, you're supposed to be free, but they used this as a way to ensnare and entrap Jake. And that's why you had certain places where you were allowed to go into, certain towns and cities you were allowed to go into, you were allowed to work. But once 6 o'clock came, there were alarms, there were bells being rung. So anybody that's darker than a brown paper bag, you better be out your ass up out of here, or else you're gonna you fear getting lynched or being terrorized in some or oppressed in some way. You see? And this is why it is written. Let's go real quick to the book of. Let me just get this one precept. I'm gonna read this again, Lord's will. Oh no, it's not. I keep writing the wrong. Jeremiah 15:5. It says, "For who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem? Or who shall bemoan thee? Or who shall go aside to ask how thou doest?" Because here it is, you're supposed to have been given freedom, you know, from this oppression and slavery. But guess what? It really wasn't no freedom, because you're still in the same condition that you were in before. But now you can move a little bit freer than you did, but not really. And this is why the Green Book was created as a safe guide to Judah out back then, to be able to travel and know where they can go and where they could not go, so that they wouldn't get in trouble. So you can read more of this. You know, it goes into some more. You know, it goes into the whole history. What I want to read here is a little bit of this. This is who was Jim Crow? Thomas Rice. The name Jim Crow is often used to describe segregation laws, rules, and customs which arose after Reconstruction ended in 1877 and continued until the mid-1960s. How did the name become associated with these black codes, which took away many of the rights which had been granted to blacks through the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments? Well, here it goes. It's a song. Come listen, all you gals and boys. I'm going to sing a little song. My name is Jim Crow. Wheel about and turn about and do just so. Every time I wheel about, I jump Jim Crow. These words are from the song Jim Crow, as it appeared in sheet music written by Thomas Dartmouth Daddy Rice. Rice, a struggling actor, which is an Edomite, he did short solo skits between play scenes at the Park Theater in New York. Happened upon a black person singing the above song. Some accounts say it was an old black slave who walked with difficulty. Others say it was a ragged black stable boy. So he stole this song, you know, and used it for his skits. Whether modeled on an old man or a young boy, we will never know. But we know that in 1828, Rice appeared on stage as Jim Crow, an exaggerated, highly stereotypical black character. So this is why when you hear the Jim Crow laws and you see all of the pictures associated with Jim Crow laws, you know, you think, all right, fucking devils, man. You know, these devils, Jim Crow, that goddamn cracker, which he was an Edomite. You know what I'm saying? But the Jim Crow laws these are the laws for niggas, just to put it in layman's terms, you know. And there was an exaggerated, stereotypical, you know, portrayal of Judah. All right, so it goes on to say, but we know that in 1828. Rice appeared on stage as Jim Crow, an exaggerated, highly stereotypical black character. And, you know, you could read the rest. It's not really that long. You know, I just wanted to get that. But see, this is the blatant ridicule that Esau has for Jake. You know, and still to this very day, to 2021, what's today? Today is October 6th, 2021. You still have Jakes out there that proclaim proudly this so-called African American heritage. And you're not an African American. First of all, you're not African and you're not American. You're an Israelite from the tribe of Judah. And the rest of the tribes are Israelites from the different tribes. And they parade around like a proud rooster, like they really know something. between the plantation Christian and these so-called black unconscious, the black so-called black unconscious community, those are two of the most proudest Jakes out there. They act as if like they know something, like they shit don't stink, and you don't know a goddamn thing. You're nothing more than a wise fool. You know? That's what the Lord said, my people are Sodom's children. They have not known me. So let's go to Isaiah 26 and 18. Because, you know, see, I was meditating on this, and, you know, beginning with the apostles and elders and brothers are bringing out certain things, revisiting things concerning slavery, you know, because it stirs up emotion. See, certain things when you bring out the book Without Sanctuary, you know, when you see the different lynchings of Jake, you see the different things that happened. You see how the Spaniards came to this side of the world and conquered this side of the world. How the other Edomites conquered and took over the land of Gad, and the mistreatments that they put upon our people. It stirs emotion. See? Because it's going to be stirred up, because the Lord is coming back to bring vengeance upon these nations for what they did to us. And that's why from time to time the Spirit has us go over these lessons and go over these different things, because it's necessary, because Jake forgets. You see, and the more the years go by, the more the technology increases, the less Jake gets into different historical things. Because this younger generation is all into electronics. They're all into the smartphones. You know, when you see the average person walking the street, their face is glued into their goddamn phone. Video games, you know, streaming, whatever. Their mind is all geared into this technology. Their mind is geared into just having a good time. And they forget about the struggles and the things that went on in this country. Because if you try to bring out the curses now in certain well-to-do neighborhoods where Jake is at, what curses? What are you talking about? This is why, you know, we have to, from time to time, go over these things that happen in history to bring forth, you know, the remembrance of these things. Like the Apostle Peter said, I will stir up your mind by way of remembrance. So Isaiah 26 and 18. We have been with child, we have been in pain. We have, as it were, brought forth wind. Yeah, because we are in pain as a woman in travail. Because what is a woman in travail? A woman in travail is a woman that is in pain, going through contractions. And her only thought in mind is to be delivered from that baby, so they can get out of her womb so that she can not have those pains anymore. Well, that's where we're at right now. The captive exile hasteneth that he may be loosed, and that he should not die in the prison. Because if we're left here, all's going to be left here to eat are tomato-nator burgers. This is an inside joke, but somebody put a picture of a burger that they got from Wendy's. And the buns were smashed, the beef was real thin, you know, and they had a big fat, about a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch thick piece of tomato in there, the tomato-nator. Oh man. So it says, we have not wrought any deliverance in the earth, neither have the inhabitants of the world fallen. Now, who are the inhabitants of the world? Esau. Because in order for the kingdom to be established, they got to go down. So now let's go to Daniel chapter 12. Daniel 12, I'm sorry, not 12, Daniel 9. Daniel chapter 9, verse 12. This, I can't even say the word, dyslexic ass. However you say the word. Daniel 9 and 12. And he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem. See? So it has not been done as has been done upon Jerusalem. And this is why we need that deliverance. And the reason why there is no justice, that, like, as we read in Jeremiah 15, who's going to bemoan us? These other nations are not concerned with our well-being. If anything, they're looking for our destruction. So now let's go from there to Isaiah 51, because we read Jeremiah 15. I'm sorry, yeah, Jeremiah 15. Let's go to Isaiah 51 and 19. It says, these two things are come unto thee, who shall be sorry for thee? See? So who's going to be sorry for us? You know, here it is. What other nation of people was subjected to this bullshit? You know? Who was subjected to this? Here it is. You were slaves. You were brought here as slaves. You were given, so-called given freedom, but you were still a slave. You were still a nobody. You were still being called by derogatory terms. You were still being lynched. You were still being castrated. You were still being lynched. You were still being burnt. Who went through that? You see? It says, desolation and destruction and the famine and the sword, by whom shall I comfort thee? Because these are the only things that were left for us, because we kept going off over and over and over again. That's why we eating GMO bullshit. That's why we eating bad or drinking bad liquor. Eating tomato sandwiches. You know? Now let's go from there. I mean, you can read more on this, but, you know, trying to get through some of these precepts. Let's go from there to Revelation. 6th chapter and the 9th verse. It says, and when he had opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Most High and for the testimony which they held, which were the apostles, the teachers, you know. But also this applies to Jake in general, because the testimony would be what? The curses that are in the scriptures that fall upon our people. It says, and they cry with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? Because the voices are still crying. And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. And we're at the point now, we're at the point of judgment now. Judgment is going to come fierce in these times. Let's go to Zechariah 1:14. It says, so the angel that communed with me said unto me, cry thou, saying, thus saith the Lord of hosts, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy, because the Lord is jealous for everything that happened to all of the children of Israel, beginning with Judah all the way down to the rest of the tribes. You see, when we read Isaiah the 34th chapter, the book of Isaiah the 34th chapter says that the Lord is going to bring these judgments upon these nations, especially Esau, for what? For the controversy of Zion. Because you touched the apple of the Lord's eye. It says, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. So you helped forward the affliction. You went overboard with it. But it was the fury of the Lord that was upon you, because the Lord said you are his sword, and he used you to punish us. But we were punished, but you're going to be punished also for what you did. Because in this society, you know, you don't ever get punished for the crimes that you've committed against us. There hasn't been anybody really held accountable for any of these atrocities that happened since the late 1400s, since you got here. All the way into 2021. So who's going to give us true reparations, true restitution? The Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Let's go to Zechariah 11. Let's start at 4. It says, thus saith the Lord my power, feed the flock of the slaughter. Who is the flock of the slaughter? Israel, beginning with Judah, the so-called Negroes. It says, whose possessors slay them. Who's the possessors? Esau, the other nations, but mainly Esau in these times. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. Why? Why did they hold themselves not guilty? Because they're in the power seat. And being that they're in the power seat, they're not going to bring judgments against themselves for committing crimes against us. It says, and they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. And you Sambo-ass sellout, so-called leaders among the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, the Most High is going to have a special death for you, man. Because here it is. You see the plight of your people. You see the sheer oppression. And you know what's going on behind the scene. Yet you fucking take these goddamn FRNs, to sell them out. The Most High is going to get you motherfuckers too, man. Now let's go from there to Habakkuk. The first chapter. Because the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. They're ruling right now. And seeing that they're ruling, they're not going to give these right judgments. This is why the Most High is going to step in. Yahweh Shai is going to step in and take these devils down. Habakkuk 1:1. The burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see. O Lord, how long shall I cry, and thou wilt not hear? Even cry out unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not save. Yeah, so how long are we going to cry to the Lord for these things? How long has Jake, since the late 1400s until now, been crying out unto the Lord for the injustices that these devils have done? Constant sorrow, tears, grief, oppression, torments, violence. When is it going to end? Well, we're coming to that point. Because this devil is not going to sit there and make it good for us. It says, why did thou show me iniquity and cause me to behold grievance? Yeah, because when we go off, the Lord punishes us. So this constant punishing is like, damn, why do you constantly, why are you constantly throwing our iniquities in our face by the situation that we're going through? For spoiling and violence are before me, and there are that raise up strife and contention. And this is what Esau is doing. Therefore the law is slacked, and judgment doth never go forth. Why? Because the person that's ruling is not about justice. Only justice that they're about is when it comes to themselves. But when it comes to us, they could care less. So that's why the law is slack, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked Esau doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. And that's why there's a wrestling of the law. There's always a loophole. As to, you almost had it, but if it wasn't for this one particular law here, you would have had all of that. What happened to Dred Scott? He had his case going. 40 acres, 2 mules, right? What happened? He was denied. Because they found some type of loophole, and that's what these devils do. You can have a airtight case, but somehow, somewhere, they'll find a loophole in there to overturn everything that you just showed. Because that's how the devil operates. That's how the devil operates. Now let's go from there to the book of Job, chapter 12, verse 6. So, seeing that this man has that power, and he's not using that power rightly to give us justice, what has to happen? The Lord has to intervene, take him out, and give us the proper justice. Because this devil ain't going to give it to us. Job 12:6. The tabernacles of robbers prosper. And we see that. Their tabernacles prosper. Their homes, everything that they do, everything that they build, everything that they have their hands in prospers. How do we know? They got the whole world in their hand, And they that provoke the Most High are secure. See? They're secure. If anything was to go down, they're well protected. They're financially strong enough to withstand any calamity that comes. But the only thing that they're not financially stable for is when Yahweh Shai comes back to take this place out. Because riches profit not in the day of evil. It says, into whose hand the Most High bringeth abundantly. Yeah, because the Most High gave the earth into their hands. And the prophecy was that with that Isaac, the blessing he gave to Esau was that he was going to have the fatness of the earth by the power of his sword. And that's what we're witnessing right now. So let's go from there to Psalms 12 and 8. It says, the wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. So who are the vilest men? The Edomites. That's why you see wickedness being exalted everywhere, because the vilest of men are in authority. Now, when did this begin? Let's go to the book of First Maccabees, the first chapter, and the 7th verse. So Alexander, which was Alexander the Great, or the Great, or the Greek. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. This is dealing when the Greek Empire was first established as a world empire around the world. And his servants bear rule, everyone in his place. Those are his generals. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So that's when the evil started being multiplied in the earth. When the wicked, when they had walked on every side, the vilest of men are exalted. And that's what happened. The vilest of men were exalted. Now let's go from there to the book of Proverbs 29 and 16. It says, when the wicked are multiplied, transgression increaseth, but the righteous shall see their fall. Because we're witnessing the collapse of their society. So in the midst of them building, we're witnessing the decay, the corrosion, the falling apart. And they thinking that they're building it correctly, but it's really all fucked up. Now, let's go from there. Let's go to the book of Psalms 58. And we're going to read that whole chapter. It's a short read. Psalms 58 and 1. It says, do ye indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge uprightly, O ye sons of men? And what's the answer to that? No. They don't judge uprightly. Because they have the power in their hand to do it. They have the book, the proper instructions. You know, they call it the good book. But they don't use the good book, except for when it benefits them. So it says, yea, in heart you work wickedness. You weigh the violence of your hands in the earth, because it starts with the mind. See, it says that their thought is deep. And then once they formulate their plan through their councils, then they bring it upon the world. And that's why you see all of these different legislations and these different things going on in the world, that they sat down somewhere and planned these things out for the future, because they have an agenda. It says the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies, because they are wicked from the womb to the tomb. You know, their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth the ear. So their poison is like the poison of a serpent, because when a serpent bites you, you don't normally die right away. In some cases, depending on how venomous the serpent is, you know, the shorter the time period for you to die. But what it does, it injects, you know, that venom into your veins. And what it does, it starts to slowly coagulate, you know, the blood. And before you know it, the person drops dead. And that's how this man's system is. You get involved, you know, you get a little tangled here, a little tangled there. Before you know it, you're all entangled. And before you know it, it brings death. It says, which will not hearken to the voice. And it said that they are like the deaf adder that stoppeth their ears. Because no matter how well, you know, the Spirit of the Lord has us sing this song, they're not going to listen. They're not Abraham tell the rich man, you know, hey, they have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. Because they won't be persuaded, because they're on a mission. The Most High programmed them to be these demonic robots, to do what they do. And even if they wanted to, which they don't, even if they wanted to turn around, they couldn't. Because they're like that heat-seeking missile. That wicked heat-seeking missile. It says, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely, which are who? The prophets. And they're not going to listen. That's why Abraham said it. They have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear them. They have the book. And they also have the prophets out here teaching, speaking. Break their teeth, which is their power, O Most High, because we don't have the ability to do that. That's why we're waiting on Yahweh Shai to take this devil down. Who will lead me into the strong city? In their mouth, break out their great teeth of the young lion, O Lord. Why? Because they have an agenda. They're pushing their agenda. They're speaking it. They're writing it into law through legislation. And they're slowly but surely pushing it out there. So the Lord has to break that power. Let them melt away as waters which run continually. When he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows, which is what? The missiles. Let them be as cut in pieces, because that's what's going to bring their ultimate demise. Their greatest weapon that they use to terrorize the world is the very instrument that the Lord is going to use to destroy them. Ain't that something? That, if you ask me, that is being in a slippery place, as the scriptures speak of in Psalm 73. The Lord put them in slippery places. The very same things that he used to puff at people, to be stout-hearted, to, intimidate the world, to bow to his will, is the very same instrument that the Lord is going to use to destroy them. How about that, man? As a snail which melteth, let every one of them pass away, like the untimely birth of a woman, that ye may not see the sun, because that ultimately they have to be done away with. Obadiah 1:18. Before your pots can feel the thorns, he shall take them away as a whirlwind, both living and in his wrath, because not only the missiles are going to destroy them, but also the chariots, the lasers from the chariots. It says, the righteous shall rejoice when he seeth the vengeance. What Bible are these Christians reading? The righteous shall rejoice when he seeth the vengeance. He shall wash his feet in the blood of the wicked. Because the Lord is going to allow us to get vengeance on these devils. That's what the scriptures say. Vengeance belongeth unto me, therefore wait ye upon the Lord. So it says, so that a man shall say, verily there is a reward for the righteous. Verily he is a power that judgeth in the earth. And that's why we wait for the Lord to exact vengeance upon them, because the Lord can hit them far harder than we can. So now let's go from there to Isaiah 14:21. Because now we get into the heart of the matter. Because Esau is not going to rule in our favor. And if he does rule in any Jake's favor, we better believe that there are ulterior motives behind it. Isaiah 14:21. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers. Why? Because they are their fathers coming back. Because there is a thing called reincarnation that is a part of the scriptures. That is a part of the doctrine of the scriptures. That they do not rise nor possess the land nor fill the face of the world with cities. Why? Because we see the examples that they left so far. In the very short time that they've been in rulership, which really you could say within the last 100 years plus, probably 150 years, almost 200 years, they've brought the earth to the brink of extinction through their technology. Ever since the rise of what was that called? The something revolution. If brothers know, if you could help me out with that. Industrial revolution. Yeah, that's it. Industrial revolution. Ever since that, this country has been going down. Well, this world has been going in a downward spiral. Because this technology that was given to these devils to increase, their ability to make things a lot quicker is actually destroying them. All right, so let's go from there to Jeremiah 49. And Jeremiah 49:12, which beginning at 7, is dedicated specifically to Esau. Jeremiah 49:7, concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts. Now we jump to the 12th verse. For thus saith the Lord, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken, meaning us. We had to drink of the cup. What cup? The cup of slavery. So we weren't supposed to drink it, but we did drink it because we are the royal people of the earth. But we had to drink it. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? So you Edomites, we had to drink of that cup. We're the chosen people of the Lord. What do you think is going to happen to you? Thou shalt not go unpunished, because you're not going to go unpunished. You're not going to punish yourself, but you're not going to go unpunished because the Heavenly Father is going to punish you. Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. And you're going to gulp it down. You hear? You're going to gulp it down. You're going to gulp every bit of slavery. You're going to be pickled in it. Revelation 13:9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Captivity is slavery. If you lead someone into slavery, you're going to go into slavery. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. If you kill somebody with the sword, you're going to be killed by the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Who are the saints? The Israelites. So what is the patience of us? What are we waiting for? We're waiting to put this devil in captivity and to be able to execute vengeance upon them. Put them to death like they put us to death. Put them in captivity like they put us in captivity. You don't think we're going to have plays and things of that nature with Esau, with white face, just everything you see they did to us, we're going to do to them. The only things we're not going to do because we are a royal people is, commit adultery, homosexual acts like they committed, buck breaking and all that. We're not going to do that, but we're going to take it out on them another way. All of this Jim Crow laws and shit, they're having to make a book called the Green Book in order to give Jake safe passage after they so-called was freed from slavery. Who lives like this? You see? So let's go from there to Exodus 21:16. It says, and he that stealeth a man and selleth him, did not the so-called white men, the Edomites, do that? Yes. Or if he be found in his hand, and which still found in his hand, he shall what? Surely be put to death. These are laws that cannot be broken. This is etched in stone. They're not going to be broken. You're going to have to pay. As you have done, it shall be done unto you. Let's go to Psalms 137:7. Remember, O Lord, the children of who? Of Edom. In the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, even to the foundation thereof. When the Babylonians came into our temples and destroyed us, they were like, throw it down to the earth, man. They wanted us to be totally annihilated. So the Lord calls these Edomites, O daughter of Babylon, because you are the daughters of Babylon, because America is Babylon the Great, who are to be destroyed. Now, ancient Babylon was not destroyed. It was translated. This is talking about modern day Babylon, America, which is run by the Edomites. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. You're gonna be the new minstrel show. And a lot of you are going to get javelined off stage because you can't dance, you can't make jokes, you're just whack. You got no talent. You're a bunch of talentless bums. So the entertainment is going to be, how many javelins can you hit the Edomite with before he hits the wall? Because their sense of talent and sense of humor and ability to dance and ability to do things and sing and all that, it's horrible. It's terrible. It says, happy shall it be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. And you see this when these devils came over here, Christopher Columbus and them. I'm trying to remember what that was called. Let me see if I just put in conquistadors. Sometimes you have pictures where they would string our forefathers up 13 at a time, supposedly for so-called Jesus and the 12 apostles. And then you'll see them on the other hand, like this is one of them, but this is how Tway, which he rather die than to accept that bullshit ass Christianity. And then you'll see in that same picture where they're burning the Israelites, and you'll see them dashing little babies against a stone, busting their heads open. So what the fuck do you think is gonna happen to you? I wish I could find it, man. See, this one here, they sick the dogs on us. I was going to do a lesson, the dogs to tear, which I never got a chance to do it. Lord's will I may do it still. And these are Ephraimites and the different tribes which suffered what the scriptures say, dogs to tear. And these dogs, these war dogs, they developed a taste for human flesh, our flesh. Because these devils would cut off our hands, our feet, and feed it to the goddamn dogs. Or they would sick the dogs in us, to destroy us. I know if I look hard enough, it'll come up. Well, look at this one. This woman, this Taino woman, she's lynched pretty much, and look at the baby, feeding the baby to the fucking dogs. Look at that. They would tear the babies out of the womb. That's all scriptures. Here it goes. No, that's not it. That's another one. But you get the idea. You could go through and you'll see it. If you look hard enough, you'll see 13 Israelites stringed up, fire being lit underneath them, and you see on the side the fucking bastard, killing the babies. All right, so let's go back. So where are we at? Now let's go to Lamentations, the 4th chapter. And man, I'm gonna have to steal a line from Elder Apostle Tahar. If there were so many scriptures, if I were to put all these scriptures down, we would have been here for about 5 hours or more, on this lesson. Lamentation 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, which are the Edomites, the so-called white people, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. What cup? The cup of slavery shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, because when you're drunken with slavery, you become numb. Look at the atrocities that Jake went through. All the tribes. It came to a point where they just became numb to it. Because there was nothing, there was no other hope. There was no other remedy. There was no other recourse. So you're going to be drunken with captivity, with this cup, and shall make thyself naked. Because you're gonna man, you're gonna serve that punishment. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. And that's how you're going to become naked. Your sins are being discovered for all the atrocities that you've committed. And we only know about the things that are documented. We don't even know about the things that were not documented. So just imagine the things that were not documented. They probably far outweigh the shit that you did. That is documented. Let's go to Ezekiel 25 and 12. It says, thus saith the Lord power, because that Edom have dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, mainly the Judites, the so-called Negroes, and hath greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Therefore, thus saith the Lord power, I will also stretch out mine hand upon Edom, see, and will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of the Dan shall fall by the sword. Right? It says, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. So the Lord's gonna use to exact vengeance upon these Edomites? Us. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. And they shall do in Edom according to what? To mine anger and according to my fury. Because we don't have enough anger and fury and hatred in us to really exact vengeance upon these devils that they deserve. So the Lord's fury is going to be upon us, and his anger is going to be upon us to do these things. And they shall know my vengeance, saith the Lord power. That's right. Just bear with me 1 second. All right. Going back. Now let's go from there. Amos. And I know some of these precepts brothers already put up, but I was, sometimes try to focus on the lesson. But I know you brothers have been putting a lot of beautiful precepts up to water. Amos 1:11. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof. So if they only did 3 or 4 things wrong, the Lord still wouldn't turn his punishment away from them. So just imagine the millions and millions of things that they've done. Because he did pursue his brother with the sword, there you go, and did cast off all pity. So you casted off all pity. You shall have judgment without mercy that showed no mercy. You reap what you sow. He that doeth wrong shall receive for the wrong which ye have done. And his anger did tear perpetually. And that's why, even now, in this time when Jake didn't do anything, that anger is still burning perpetually in you. This is why you have things like without sanctuary. Let's show that real quick. It takes a demented mind, right? And real deep hatred to get somebody, to kill them, and they're already dead, then cut their penis off and beat them and shoot them, riddle them with bullets and set them on fire and lynch and just keep at it until there's nothing left of that. That is a demented, demonic hatred. Look at this shit. That was love, right? That got this. Look at this man. What's left of him? And do you think that they have remorse? Do you think that they're upset? Where's their bleeding heart? Where's the pity? Where's the mercy? That's that utter hatred. Look at this. That's that utter hatred that these devils have for Jake. Look at this. Making men strip and women strip, butt naked, with they rod out, ass out, titties out. Total humiliation. Look at this shit. Look at all the scars on this man. I mean, you have to open it up, so you can see it really. See, and these are the devil smiling and laughing on the side. Like something's fucking funny. Look at this. Look at this little bitch right here. Got the Jake cuffed up, lynched, and she's laughing. And that's the sentiment of all these devils. But you think you're gonna get mercy now? You think all of a sudden you could accept sweet Jesus and that's it? It's over? Get the fuck out of here. Look at this shit. Without sanctuary. So that's why our sanctuary is going to be in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. When the Lord comes back to give us justice. And on top of all of this shit, all the other shit that went through, the fucking Jim Crow laws and all that other bullshit, the things that happened to, the so-called Latin tribe, Native American Indian tribes. Who goes through that? And that's why these wacky-tacky Christians, them devils, No, they try to say no. The curse, that's not talking about black people. That's not talking about Latino people. That ain't talking about Native American Indian people. Then what the fuck is it talking about then? Oh, it's talking about them rats. They went through that. The fuck out of here, boy. You can't go down soon enough, you fucking bastards. You can't go down soon enough. You can't go down soon enough. Now let's go from there to Isaiah 34 and 5. And you see these things, and it just fucking makes your blood boil. You know? The fucking audacity that these motherfuckers have, you know? The audacity that they have to get mad. Isaiah 34 and 5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon who? Idumea, which is a Greek way of saying Edom, and upon the people of my curse to judgment, because they are the cursed people of the Lord. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath the sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And the land of Idumea today is a representation of America. All right. And why is he going to do it? Verse 8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. For everything that you did to all 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. You touched the apple of the Lord's eye. Now you're going to get fucked up. How about that? Proverbs 16 and 4. Lord's will, I'm going to finish these precepts. I got quite a few left. Lord's will, we're going to get through all of them. Proverbs 16 and 4. The Lord hath made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. So you're already prepared for destruction. Romans 9:22. What if the Most High, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction? You were tailor-made for destruction. That's why you're such a demonic robot. That's why you're such an evil, wicked motherfucker. That's why you're a soulless, heartless, black heart-having devil. Because you were fitted for destruction. And the Most High is righteous. So you have to do something in order for you to be judged. And oh boy, did you do something. You did a whole lot of something. Now let's go to Nahum 1 and 3. And the fucking crazy shit about it is the devil don't want to pay. Now they don't want to pay. Amazing. You motherfuckers are amazing, man. Nahum 1 and 3. You know who's a motherfucker? The devil is a motherfucker. Nahum 1 and 3. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. So the Lord is not going to acquit you. You're not going to be given clemency. You're not going to be given a light sentence. The judgment is already written, and the judgment will be executed when the Lord takes this demonic ass kingdom down. The Lord hath his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. But the main point here is the Lord is great in power and will not at all acquit the wicked. You're not going to be acquitted. Let's go to Ezekiel 35 and 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. In the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Now you did that back during the Babylonian Empire, and you did that in this time. You done it during the time of the Greeks. You done it during the time of the Romans. So you're going to drink, man. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord, I will prepare thee unto blood. So you've been fitted for destruction, and you're being prepared for blood. And blood shall pursue thee, because just like the curses pursued us, everywhere you turn around, there's going to be blood flying all over. Edomite blood flying through the air in the kingdom of heaven. And blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. You like to kill? Hey, you will be killed. Bottom line. Check your history, man. And you saturated this world with blood. Numbers 35 and 33. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein you are, for blood it defileth the land. And this is why the blood of Adam cried to the Lord, because Cain slew him and nobody was there to see it. So when the spirit of Abel went up into the heavens, he told the Lord what went down, which the Lord already knew. That's where the Lord was messing with Cain. What have you done, Cain? What do you mean? Where's your brother? What am I, my brother's keeper? It says, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. Because the Lord said in Genesis 9, he that sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. And you have a lot of blood shedding that you have committed. You go back to this without sanctuary, all the different lynchings that you committed and brought upon, the people of the Lord. Look at this. Look at this. All of this shit, what you did to the so-called Native Americans of this land, the different tribes going from Canada all the way down to South America and everything in between. You got a lot to pay for, dude. You got a lot to fucking pay for, man. Look at this. This is Emmett Till. Can't really see it that well, but you know what Emmett Till looked like. Look at that. From this to that. See? All this wickedness that you've done, devils. All this wickedness. All right, now let's go from there to Isaiah 26 and 21. And then one more. I got a couple more after that, but I might save that for another lesson. Those look like some good precepts for another lesson. Isaiah 26:21. Oh, already went there. For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. And his Lord is coming to punish you. The earth also shall disclose her blood. The Lord is going to cause the earth to disclose her blood, because there's a lot of things that you did, a lot of murders you committed that are not written. So the Lord is going to uncover that blood and shall no more cover her slain, because you're going to have to pay for every last little thing that you've done on the planet. Deuteronomy 32 and I spelled it wrong. And 43. And this will be another lesson, Lord's will. I did something on this years ago. It says, rejoice ye heavens with his, rejoice ye nations with his people. He will avenge the blood of his servants and will render vengeance to the adversaries, to his adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. So this part here, rejoice, O ye nations. Then it says here, with his people. Now, if you notice the with is in italicized letters. When you see italicized letters in the English, that means that there's no Hebrew word there for it. Or I'm not sure if it does the same thing in the Greek, but I know in the Hebrew, when you see italicized letters, that means that word is not there. That's just something they inserted. So it should say, rejoice, O ye nations, his people, because Israel was going to be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And when we read here, rejoice, O ye nations, you have rejoice, Ragun, O ye nations, Goyim or Goya, with. What happened? Where's the entry? There's no with. So it should be rejoice, O ye nations, his people. All right. It says, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, because who are the servants of the Lord? The Israelites. And the Lord is going to avenge that blood and will render vengeance to his adversaries, which is Esau and the other nations, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. That's the bottom line. So he shall have no name in the street, because eventually, after 1,000 years of captivity, hardcore slavery, Esau is going to be rounded up, burnt up, and there will be no more root of Esau, no more son, nephew, uncle, whatever the case may be, grandfather, father, great-great-grandfather, none of that bullshit. No more Edomites on the earth. That's it. Finished. Finito. Gone. No more people called the wicked on the planet earth. That's it. It's over. So, and then I got that title. Matter of fact, let me just go where I got that title from. Job 18, and I believe it was the 17th verse. Right. His remembrance shall perish from the earth, and he shall have no name in the street. See? That's where that title came from. He shall have no name in the street. So with that, I pray that you brothers and you few sisters have been edified. Until the next time I say, Shalom.